Welcome back to another episode of Projecting Grandeur. I'm your host, Ron Dichter. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for being part of our growing community. I want to talk today about the game of free cell. And for those of you that are younger that don't know what free cell is, back in the early days, we'll call it, computers had 3 games on them by default, or I should say Microsoft operating system computers had 3 games by default. You had Solitaire, you had, I think it was called Minesweeper, and you had Free Cell. And Free Cell was sort of similar to Solitaire, except the goal was a little bit different. Won't get into the nuances because it's not really relevant, but the point behind why I want to talk about Free Cell is when Free Cell was launched, the creator of the game basically said every game of Free Cell is winnable, meaning there is no way to not win a game of Free Cell. And the goal was to get all your cards lined up by suit in 4 neat stacks, and they're mixed up and obviously blocked by moves that you can make either in chronological order or by same suits. And if you made the wrong move, you would block yourself and prevent you from making any other moves, and then you would thus lose that game. But again, the creator of the game built it in a way that every single game of Free Cell was a winnable game. And so it started to make me think about strategy and making the right moves. And there are times where you may make a move and that move seems like the right thing for the moment, but it actually hurts something in the future. And being able to understand, not just the importance of a move today, but the importance of a move tomorrow, and what you do today, kind of thinking through things a little bit more than what's right in front of you as to what is the long-term or the mid-term impact of that decision. Now, I don't want anyone to take away from this that my thought process is that you should never make a bad move, because what'll end up happening is you'll never make any moves because you'll be too afraid to make the wrong move, and then thus you will never do anything, and you'll just get stuck in what I've talked about before, which is where you just analyze things to death and you never actually do anything. But learning from moves and learning from, what you did right and what you did wrong can help you make better moves in the future. And so going back to that game of Free Cell analogy, while every game may in fact be winnable by the creator, that does not mean that every person is going to win every game, because you don't know what the right move is in any way the cards are dealt out. So I say this because when you play that game of Free Cell, which I haven't played in years, possibly decades at this point, but when you play that game, what you're trying to do is not just look at the move that's about to happen, right? You're not just trying to say, okay, this card can go into this stack. You're trying to project a little bit further out into the future and say, if I move this card to this stack, what is my next move? And then if that's my next move, what is my move after that? And it's no different than a game of chess, where you're really trying to anticipate not just the move, but the move after that, and maybe even the one following that, and so on, until you're really starting to think about things strategically as opposed to tactically. And you hear that term a lot in business, strategy versus tactics. And strategy obviously is that long-term vision of what you're trying to do. The tactical stuff is like the near-term moves that you make that move you closer to that strategy, or that align with that strategy. And so going back to the point of Free Cell, again, every game is winnable, but that does not mean that you're going to win every game. And what you can learn from this is that you have to be able to look more than at the move right in front of you, and be able to look 2, 3, 4, 5 moves into the future, and what the impact factor is of making that move. And if you can start thinking about your business, start thinking about your career, start thinking about your job role, depending on where you're at in your journey. If you can start thinking about those things more so than what's right now, and start to think about what impact those things have into future moves, you are going to find yourself making really good strategic decisions. And while you might not be right every time, it's going to help you become more thoughtful in your decision process and really help you look at things more critically, so that you can decide, is this singular move that I'm doing right now going to help me 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 moves into the future? And it'll start training your brain to start thinking about moves, decisions in business in a way where you start thinking about the future. So I think that's really all I want to articulate and leave you with today is think of the game of free cell. Every game is winnable, but you have to make the right moves. And just like in business or your career or in your job, you're going to be faced with, decisions. And some of those decisions are going to be right now decisions, and some of those decisions are going to be, longer term thinking decisions. But what I urge and encourage everyone to do is think about what you're doing right now and what's going to happen 2, 3, 4, 5, moves after that, and how that singular thing you're doing right now can really be impactful because of what it's going to create or offer in the future. So, and what you might find is sometimes those moves are backwards or sideways. They're not always forward, because sometimes you've heard that saying, you take one step back for 2 steps forward, and that's really kind of how you think about it. So anyway, I hope you find this helpful. Hopefully you can use that analogy of free cell in your business, in your career, in your job, and take it to heart. So thanks for tuning in today. Thanks for being part of our community. Please remember to like and comment, and most importantly, share. Thanks so much. Have a good day.